I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be avoiding unnecessary texting. Well, I've got an email here from a viewer, and what's interesting is, like, when I see all these different emails, I also am looking at the phone consultations, especially like with new people coming in that I'm talking to. And one of the common themes that I see, at least recently I'm seeing a lot more of, is guys that are not handling texting and phone calls properly in the relationship. So today what we're going to talk about is the sweet spot. How often you should text and call and initiate contact with a girl. And what I found, and I talk about this a lot, but 70 to 80% of the calling, texting, and pursuing should be initiated and done by women. That means the guy should do no more than 30% of the initiating. And so the right way to start out when you meet a girl is to call her once a week or to text her once a week and make a date with her. And then if you continue to do more things right than wrong when you're on your dates and her level of attraction continues to grow as you keep doing things right, then usually after the second or third week or second or third date, which is the second or third week obviously, she'll start texting you in between or a couple of days after your last date. And then you should just assume that the reason she's doing that is because she's ready to see you again. I often like to use the analogy, it's kind of like the little red button that pops up in the turkey at Thanksgiving to let you know that it's done. It's kind of like that. So when a woman is ready to see you, when she's had enough of being away from you, when she gets to the point where she misses you, where she's thinking about you, and she wants to resolve this tension within herself, that's when she'll pick up the phone and call you to say, I had a good time the other night, or to text you, she had a good time the other night. Or they'll text you about something that's completely innocuous and unrelated to anything. Oh, hey, I was watching a movie last night, and this person in the movie reminded me of you. And she texts you something like that, and the average guy will go, what she's really doing is she's putting herself into your orbit to make it easy for you to make the next date. And so you should assume that when she contacts you next, and maybe it hasn't been a full week, or say you went out with her on a Wednesday, and then like on Friday she's texting you, or Friday night she texted you, and maybe you were out, and so you're responding back on Saturday, you'd be making your next date for Monday or Tuesday the following week, or maybe even Sunday the next night, or that night. It really just depends on where you're available. But when she reaches out to you, you should assume that it's because she wants to see you. Again, I say a lot is that you should assume that all women want you. And so if a woman's texting you, it's obviously, you should assume she's texting you because she wants to see you. So make it happen. Make the date and get the hell off of the phone. And so I've got a couple quotes that I'd like to share with you. The first one is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he says, make yourself necessary to somebody. So the process of dating is that emotionally you want to make yourself necessary to the women or woman that you're dating. In other words, you become over time an important part of her life by doing things right. And another one is, this is by Buddha, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. That's pretty fucking powerful. That's something to think about. So let's get into this email I've got here. He says, hey Corey, I was hoping for some insight as to what I can do to keep my relationship alive. I've been dating this girl for 2 months now, and not a long time, I know, and I'm sure you've probably heard this a lot. Yep. But she really is my dream girl, and up until 2 weeks ago, it was the best time of my life, and hers too. Well, at least that you think it was the best time of her life too. See, that's what men and women, we both tend to do, is we tend to project our high feelings of attraction and desire on to the other person. He says, I made her fall in love very fast, and she was the one who wanted to commit first, and she was the one who said, I love you first. And the thing you got to understand about I love yous and how a woman feels about you is that you got to understand when a woman expresses herself and how much she cares about you, or how much she hates you if she's pissed at you in the present moment. It's exactly that. She's discussing, and it's a reflection of how she feels in the moment. And so if you're a guy dating a girl, you should never assume that just because she said she was crazy about you 2 weeks ago and she was in love with you, that she still feels the same way today, especially if she's no longer saying it. Because if women, what they say and how they express themselves is a direct reflection of how they feel in that particular moment. And what the average guy typically does is they rationalize and they say, oh, well, she was in love with me 2 weeks ago, or we just went on this great trip and got back 3 or 4 days later, or 3 or 4 days ago. And they assume that that really matters to a woman. It doesn't. What matters is how she feels in the present moment about you. What matters is how you're currently showing up. So even if you were awesome in strength and full of confidence and strength 5 minutes ago, if you're fucking up right now, the only thing that matters to her is how you're showing up in the present moment. He says, sure, I went and, he says she was the one who said, I love you first. He says, sure, I went above and beyond to show her that I liked her. In other words, you did too much. You pursued too much. That's probably what you're meaning by that. He says, I did a crazy scavenger hunt for her birthday where she got everything from a dress and shoes to her nails done, hair done, and a romantic trip to Vegas. It's like, holy shit, dude. For 2 months, that's a lot of money and a lot of shit to do after, 2 months. You maybe should be spending the weekend together for the first time. Doing something like doing all that stuff and taking her out of town, that's a lot of work for, and that's the kind of thing that you do only when you're in an exclusive relationship. Not like she tells you I love you and then like the next week you reward her with this extravagant trip. He says, this was where she told me she loves me. Oh, so on the trip she says she's in love with you. You're doing way too much way too soon. And obviously it tells me you're probably new to my book. Or you may not have read it, because you gotta take measured steps. You gotta notice how the woman is showing up, how much effort she's making, how much she's reciprocating your interest. Because when you have high interest in somebody, whether it's somebody you want to date or a job that you want, you can't help but almost like put that person or that job or that investor, if you're looking for an investor in your company, on a pedestal. And in a way, you start communicating scarcity to the universe, like, oh, I don't feel I'm worthy, I don't feel I deserve it, by the way you act. And eventually the other person is going to treat you according to how you perceive yourself. In other words, you attract how you act in life. He says, this is where she told me that she loves me, and this was only 2 weeks ago. Anyways, to make a long story short, we got into a small fight when we got back as she was having a rough time with life, as a friend died and she was having trouble with her bills. He says, and another thing, guys who understand women don't argue with them. And I would suspect, if I was a betting man, you probably were getting bent out of shape because she didn't seem to be as present with you or as interested in seeing you as she once did. And so you started whining about it, basically, as opposed to handling it the proper way. So he says, I may have screwed it all up. She's now pushing away. And he puts, needs a minute, in brackets, in her words. So this tells me you're definitely smothering this girl. You're over pursuing her. You've got to love the other person in such a way that they feel free. And so what's going on now is that you can tell she's backing away, and you're probably doing what the average guy does in this situation, which is now you think, because, masculine energy is about purpose, drive, mission, succeeding, accomplishing things in life, taking action. And as a guy, when a woman backs away, our typical response is, well, I have to do something. I have to make something happen. She's saying I need space, and the guy thinks, well, I just got to do something. I got to get myself around her to make her want me more like she did before. And you got to remember that, like I talk about in my book, women are like cats, and they get bored. They got to go off and roam the neighborhood. And that's why I say you got to practice infinite patience with women. When they go off and roam the neighborhood, or they get bored because they've spent a lot of time with you, just wait until they come back. Give them the space. If you leave a message and they don't call you back right away, that should tell you that she's really not that interested in talking to me right now. And so that should tell you that, you know what, I've maybe pushed things too hard, too fast, too much too soon, and I need to back off and chill, because she's obviously gotten a little bit bored. And the quickest way to get somebody else's attention is to remove yours. So the idea is to stop moving forward. It's like, in other words, when the other person starts taking you for granted, when their enthusiasm drops, call them less, spend less time. But the sweet spot, texting-wise and calling-wise, should be the guy should never do more than 30% of it. When a guy does more than that, it's too much. And you're going to see here in a minute when we get to the end of his email. what he's really doing wrong. So he says, I've tried not to talk to her as much, and when I do, I've been extremely nice at most times, and I have told her that I am not happy with the way things are going and hope they change soon. Well, you're the leader of the relationship, and so therefore it's up to you to lead things to where you want them to go. Calling on the phone and complaining about it is not the way to do it. Creating a fun-filled romantic opportunity for sex to happen, where you use the phone properly to set dates and not to try to have a relationship, because you're obviously chit-chatting way too much on the phone and you're not just simply making your next date. Because it's a scientific fact that women are more attracted to men whose feelings are unclear. So when you make a date a couple of days into the future and then you get off the phone, think about it. She's going to be thinking about you and wondering about you, and then you got peace of mind because you got a date set up. And now you can focus on your job, your career, landing that investor or that employee that you want to land, or that job, whatever, or that account, whatever it happens to be. And then she's thinking about you, which is causing her attraction and the sexual tension within her to grow. So when you go see her, you're ready to see her, but she's also going to be more excited to see you than she was when she made the date, because she's been wondering about you. But if you're talking constantly in between that, it gets in the way. It's like constantly opening up the oven when there's a cake in there baking. Oh, is it done yet? It just lets the hot air out. So he says, as the day goes by, she seems more distant, and I'm scared I'm going to lose her if I haven't already. Is there anything I can do? See? He's in the illusion of action. I got to do something. I got to do something. Is there anything that I can do to get back to where we were? Back the fuck off. That's what you can do. She's telling you, what was her words were? She says she needs a minute. In other words, she just needs some space and time away from you to think about what's going on in her life, in her world, and to start missing you. And with you chasing her and pursuing her, or over-pursuing her, she's never going to get to that point. Because you're acting needy and insecure when you over-pursue like that. So he says, I'd really like for this to work, and I'm hoping you'll have the answer. She's a very gorgeous woman who I'm sure gets a lot of attention. I'm worried by giving her space that she will find someone new right away. He says, I maybe send a good morning text and a good night text and maybe one other during the day now. Jesus Christ, how many texts were you fucking sending her before, dude? It's like you're sending her 3 throughout the day. That's like constantly, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Opening up the oven and checking things out. You're constantly deflating the sexual tension. You gotta give the woman space away from you to wonder what the fuck you're doing. But you're checking in with her like she's your fucking drill sergeant or something, or she's your chaperone, or what's the hall monitor? That's what they call it. It's just a bad way to go, man. And so that is definitely what you're doing wrong. The only time you should be texting her is to make a date and then get off the phone. In this particular case, when a girl tells you that she needs space, you say, all right, baby, just give me a call when you get your head together or you feel better or whatever it happens to be. And just wait. It might be a couple of days. And when she reaches out, hey, honey, great to hear from you. We got to get together and catch up. When are you free? Great. I'll pick you up at 8. Or great. I'll see you tomorrow at 8. Be at my place at 8 and bring a bottle of wine. I'll take care of the food. We'll make dinner together. That's all you got to do. He says, she calls me occasionally and she responds occasionally. It's like, yeah, dude, it's because you're way over pursuing. Basically, the ball's in her court. You could say, and I would like to know how I can reverse the role. Well, do nothing. When you hear from her, make the next date and then get off the phone. But going forward, once you go out and you have your next date and you hang out and you have fun, you hook up, everything's great. Don't talk about how things were, the drama, or this or that. Just have a good time with her. Because you're smothering this girl and pushing her away by your stalkerish type of behavior. Hang out, have fun, and hook up. And forget about everything else, because you're never getting to the point where she wants to be your girlfriend when you're constantly over pursuing and sending 3 texts, because you're acting like the woman in the relationship, and you need to stop that completely, or you're going to chase her away and get the let's just be friends speech from her, and I know you don't want that. So if you have a question you need my help with, the quickest way to get my help is to go to my website right now, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and follow the instructions for booking a paid phone coaching session. I'll talk to you soon.